I'm Thomas Weimer, and welcome to Mountain State Trout. I'll show you guys around a little bit, show you how things work, how trout is raised. If you want to come up this way, I'll show you where the head of the spring is and where everything starts. So, because everything depends on the fresh water coming in here. So this is the spring hole where the water source comes from to feed the hatchery. It's been here for a long time. It runs a little more here in the spring and in the fall. When it's running at its lowest point, it's still running about 1,200 gallons a minute. So it's still a pretty good spring even through the summer and sustains a lot of fish. So yeah, my great-grandfather built this hatchery in 1953. It's been in operation ever since, mostly as a stock pond operation to stock privately owned ponds and streams. But he died in 1970 and my uncle inherited it and then sold it in 1990, and I bought it back from the people that owned it from him in 2015. And since then we've been working on doing farm to table fish and getting into restaurants and local markets, getting fish to people to eat, because we'd like for people to get to enjoy them at home. So since 2015 we've done pretty well with building up a steady customer base with the farm to table to where we're able to work year round on that, and then we still have our spring and fall stocking seasons. Okay, so these are the raceways. This is where we, after we hatch our eggs out in the spring and in the fall, inside we'll raise them up to about 2 to 3 inches in the round tanks. Then move them out here to grow them out to about 6 inches until we move them out into the grow ponds. But right now we've got a bunch of rainbow trout. These are golden rainbow trout. This strain originally was started in Petersburg, West Virginia, just down the road. We also got a few steelhead trout. Pretty much I'll show you the few basic things you got to do every day to, the basic maintenance of trout farming. So one of the main things you got to do is keep these raceways clear, keep your solid waste out of there. So about 3 times a week you're going to get in there and brush them down and flush them and get all that waste out so they don't have any issues with all that pH levels getting out of balance. Our feed here, these are on a 3.0 feed. You feed them different size pellets for what size fish they are as they grow. We start them out on a little tiny crumble feed. So I seen yesterday these were having a little gill issue, so I'm just going to throw a bag of salt in here, and clean them up a little bit. It helps keep the raceways nice and clean too. So you notice we have everything covered up with bird netting. Try to keep it sealed up pretty tight, because one of our biggest issues that we have with raising trout is the predation you got to deal with. Pretty much everything under the sun wants to eat a fish, seems like. So, this is the best defense against a good offense, is totally covering it up. You gotta keep them covered or stuff would be in here all the time. Before I covered this up, we were losing 50% of what we were producing by the time we were harvesting the fish, just to predators. Okay, this is our harvest pond. This is where we pull our fish out to do our processing and for our stocking loads. And usually I have another guy here to help me, and one of us will get in there and the other one will stay on this side, and one of us will flank around over there and catch them up. We usually use the wall to get against. And you pull it up like this, you kind of want to get it. You pull the bottom flat and you pull them up. Then we'll catch them up into that net. Carry them over here to this basket and dump them in. Load it up, then we'll go through and grade them out of the basket for processing. We'll pick out the size we want for depending on what cuts we're pulling or what size fish the stocking customer wants. This is my hatching tank right here. This is where we start our eggs out. This is our hatching upwelling jar. You'll set your eggs in here. Then you'll run your hose into this. And you'll set your flow at about a gallon per minute. 650 milliliters for every 15 seconds. This is a mason jar tool. And set this down in here. Okay. Now it should be close to a gallon a minute. It might be a little more. Generally, real life situation, you'll sit there and do your time, your mason jar for 15 seconds. So your eggs are down in here. This is what you call, this is my incubator. This is what I incubate my eggs in. But so you'll let the water do this for about 2 weeks as your eggs lay in there and begin to hatch. And from the egg, they'll form a little tiny head, a little tiny tail, and they'll start swimming up out there and doing little circles and stuff. They'll start squiggly bobbing up here is what I call it, and then they come out and they'll land here in this tray, and this tray helps collect a lot of the shell and the excess stuff laying from getting on the bottom, which ends up getting yucky and stuff. It's hard to clean with all these little fish in there. So they'll lay in this basket for about another 2 weeks until they finish forming their head and their tail, and they'll kind of absorb their egg sac. Their egg sac will become their stomach, and they'll swim up out of here. This basket has a little spot here on the sides where they can swim up out, and then they'll swim around out here and they'll start looking for food. Then you pull this out. After another 2 weeks, you'll once they've absorbed their sac and they're looking for feed, that's called swim up craft. We'll take them from there, we'll move them over into these tanks, and then we'll go from there, we'll grow them up to about 2 to 3 inches before we move them outside.